Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Behind me is a brand new Lucid Air, and I just made a quick video on how to wrap this hood without using any steam or any heat to get it done. So stick around. So we had a little issue with our audio during the recording, so we're going to do a little voiceover here. What I'm doing is squeegeeing down this hood with a water blade. We spray a little slip on there and squeegee it off just prior to installation. You're probably wondering what this is I'm rubbing on here. This is the soap that we use for our slip. So all these areas that have these sharp edges or edges that we're going to be pulling over, I tend to rub a little raw soap on them, and that keeps the film from pre-tacking there, sticking, causing any kind of adhesive disturbance or silvering in those areas. So we're going to spray our slip on here and then grab our piece of film. This is a 60, and I believe it was 90 inches long. It's a pretty long piece of film. This is kind of a clamshell hood, and this is the first time we've ever done one, so that's the first time I've ever laid a piece of film on one of these Lucid Airs. And so I'm kind of evaluating it, looking at it, kind of coming up with a game plan. I do this ahead of time too, just kind of in my head while I'm doing other things. I'll think about this, and so I'm just kind of pulling it, looking at it, and seeing how it's going to go. We're going to trim away this excess film at the top here that's bunching up on the windshield, so we'll trim that away. We don't want to trim too much away that we start having trouble with coverage or getting things to lay right when we start stretching this.
My soul beats a sound loud enough to quiet the thunder. In love with no doubt, and now I'm never gonna slow down. Never gonna slow.
Now we're going to add a bunch more slip underneath it, and I want to tack the back first, so we get some more slip up onto the front. I've kind of sped that up a little bit. So we're going to tack onto the fender, not onto the fender, I'm sorry. We're going to tack onto the door, and I'll tack high, and then you'll see I tack low here. We're having a little pre-tack on that gloss black trim that's on the edge of the hood back there. And you're probably wondering why we didn't remove it. No, there's no need to. I'll show you how we take care of that a little bit farther in the video. We're tacking back here, and then I'm going to tack down low, making sure it's going to sit right here. And now I'm tacking low. And I'm coming to the front, and now watch the film. So I'm gonna pull it forward. I'm looking at the section, that valley there where those vents are. Those vents are for the headlight, for headlight cooling. I'm trying not to get it too tight in there, but I'm trying to get the fingers out of the hood. So you'll kind of see I'm pulling it forward and I'm moving it. If you pay attention, I'm kind of moving it left and right a little bit. I'll put a little tack there, and you'll see. There we go. We tack that down there, and we'll probably readjust this film here before we start doing our final squeegee strokes, just to make sure we have all the fingers out. There's that wheel arch, or that wheel opening. The film likes to really bunch up around that, typical of a clamshell hood. So I'm maneuvering that film again, looking at it, and you can see that there's still a couple of little fingers in the front. Go to the back. Readjust my tack back there and pull it. I'm kind of pulling it straight back and not so much down. And you'll see how those fingers react in the front. All right, so we're getting ready to squeegee here, and we're just going to lay a bunch of slip in there, just keeping it nice and wet. just flooding that, and then we'll kind of rub it around with our hands, get that all to move around on the hood, make sure the hood's not tacked up in any spots. And I'm gonna cut out this opening here where the air vent is at prior to laying this film down. And this is key right here. You wanna take away a little bit of that tension, but you don't wanna make a straight cut, you wanna make rounded cuts. So I'm gonna start and go across, and when I get to that end down there, I'm gonna make a nice rounded cut and come back, and I did a rounded cut coming back the same way. I edited that out, but now you see how I'm pulling that film. I'm pulling the film, and I'm looking and making sure that it's all still moving, pulling it. I wanna get a little bit of flop in the film in that valley, and had a lot of slip on the top, so I just wiped it off with a towel, give me a little more grip up there, and I think what I have is good. So I'm going to grab my squeegee, I'm going to pull it again, and I'm not going to squeegee down the valley. I'm just going to pull it and get that stretch locked right there. And it's not a whole lot of stretch. It's a minimal amount of stretch, but it's enough, and it even pre-tacked right there. I'll lift that. It's enough that it'll make it a lot easier to get this film to land there. So I'm testing it, kind of looking and see how it's going. And you can see it moving over that sharp body line. I can see the film kind of rolling over that. And so I know that it's not all tacked up. So I'm gonna flood this area with a bunch of tack solution. And this is key right here. You're gonna wanna lock up that back so that keeps air from going in there. If you don't lock that up, when you do your hand swipe and squeegee swipe, the film's gonna wanna pop back open and let air back in there. So we'll lock this back edge up here, and then I'll kind of give it a once over with my hand, and I think that's gonna work. So I'll do a hand swipe, get that film to suck down, and I'm holding it there with one hand, and I'm squeegeeing this all down. And the warmth of my hand is helping to lock that film there along with the tack solution that I put there. Now it's lifting right there, so I'm gonna give it one attempt here to lay down. If it doesn't lay down, then I'm gonna trim it. And it's I've got a little finger right there, and I wanna check that finger, make sure it's gonna go away. It is. We'll hit this other side here real quick and fill that with a bunch of tack, and we'll squeegee that down into there. See how it locks down in there. Now it is gonna lift a little bit in each corner, and I'm gonna retrim that. So right now I'm just giving it some insurance squeegee strokes there to make sure I didn't leave any liquid in there. And you see how it's kind of lifting there a little bit. And I didn't cut it quite far enough the first time, and that's okay. We can come back and we can trim this and make a nice rounded cut and relieve that tension that's there with this rounded cut. And there we go. Got our cut made, and the film is going to want to lay in there a lot nicer. I probably should have put some tack in there. You don't want to overwork an area like this if it's not going to go down in the first 1, 2, or 3 squeegee strokes. Then it's going to be something that's going to pop. So you want to make sure you get your tack sprayed in there. And I'm going to trim this corner up over here a little bit. Pop that little piece of film out of there. We'll get that to lay. Now, if you watch Cameron on the other side, he's having some issues. And so I'm going to jump over here and kind of help him out. He's having trouble with the film relifting. So I told him, let's put some more tack in there. You probably got a little too much soap from that ridge washed down in there. So I'm going to flood that with tack solution, and he's going to squeegee it. And I'm going to hold it with my fingers. I know you can't see right now. My big body's blocking there, but we get it to lay down. And he'll bring the rest of that slip solution down out of there. And he cut it less than what I cut it, so I'm going to give it another trim for him and help relieve some of that tension there in that little corner. I'm just trimming that up. little extra time to trim that. And then we'll put some tack in there, and that'll just lay right down.
Talk with our head in the clouds, and we will walk with our feet on the ground, and we will talk with our head in the clouds, and we will.
And you see how I'm holding that with my finger, making sure that that's going to stick down in there. We'll give this one more final trim, and it'll be the final trim once it all dries out and everything. And now we just need to basically start squeegeeing out the rest of this hood. We've got the main parts, the most difficult parts, laid down. And the reason why we don't really use heat or steam or hot water to do this, when the film's designed, it's not designed or tested using these methods. This is done in a controlled environment, typically 70 to 75 degrees. And my feeling is if you have to use heat and steam, you're going to get too much of a stretch in a tight area. Now, if you watch close here, this is that back piece of trim, and what I'm doing is I've sprayed my tack in there and I'm pushing the film forward, so the film wants to just relax and lay right in there when I squeegee it up. So it's actually going right up to that very edge. In some cases, it'll kind of feed itself under that, depending on how big the gap is. But we just spray a little bit of our tack in there. Totally missing the target there. But I'm pushing the film forward, and you can see how the film just kind of drops down in there. And then when we trim this, all I've got to do is just take my knife and stick the blade out maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and let it ride in between the hood panel and that trim piece, and it'll trim right in that gap. Add some more tack right there. And again, I'm going to push the film forward a little bit, and it just, boom, just lays right in there, real nice and tight. And then when we trim this, it's all going to look good. It'll be right up there. You won't even see the edge of the film. It'll be right up to the very edge of that trim piece. So I've got my blade out about 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just letting it ride right in between that trim piece and the hood. The only thing that's being cut is the film. We're not cutting on the trim, we're not cutting the hood, it's just riding in that gap. We'll come back out over here and lift the film up and give it one more squeegee stroke in there, make sure that it's all laying down in there and tucked in there. And now the hood's pretty much done. Cameron's gone around and squeegeed the rest of it out. He's working his section of the top of the hood there where that trim is. We'll make sure that the clamshell sides are locked down on this hood. And I'm just going around and checking these edges and make sure these edges are locked down with our tack. Because we're going to let this sit for probably an hour or two before we trim it all out. And I don't have a whole lot of tension right there, so I don't need to really pull on this film. You just squeegee that down, and that's it. Okay guys, so this is the hood all finished up. Well, technically not finished, but we have to trim it out. We're going to let it sit for about 15-20 minutes. I did trim this out up here. As you can see, probably I don't know if this will focus in or not. No, that's zoom. Using a different app here on the camera, so there we go. No edge on there that you can see. and we didn't remove that piece. We have this in here, and this we're just going to let it dry out. Where you see the film stop, that's where the panel stops. Once it dries out, we'll be able to just kind of fold it over and give it a little trim just inside of that. And you can see there's not a bunch of work marks or anything like that. Everything laid down smooth in there. No adhesive disturbances along that body line. It looks really milky and splotchy right now as it's drying out, but you can see our squeegee marks in there, and not squeegee marks, but just where we extracted the solution. And that's it. That's one Lucid hood. No steam, no heat. Temperature in the shop's probably about 74 degrees.
Never gonna slow.
Well, we just completed the full body wrap on this Lucid Air. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, hit the like button and keep checking back for updated videos. Thanks for watching.